Imagine this, a quiet summer night in 1951, the humid air of St. Petersburg, Florida, heavy with the promise of a storm. An elderly woman sits alone in her apartment, reading, perhaps sipping on a warm drink. The kind of night where nothing extraordinary should happen. Yet, by morning, she's gone, reduced to ashes in a way that defies logic, science, and belief. The warm Florida evening on July 1st, 1951, seemed ordinary in every respect. The streets of St. Petersburg were quiet, cloaked in the humid stillness that often precedes a summer storm. In her modest apartment at 1200 Cherry Street, 67-year-old Mary Reeser sat alone in her favorite armchair. She was a widow, living a simple life, content in her routines. But by the time the sun rose the next day, Mary Reeser would become the centerpiece of one of the strangest and most unsettling mysteries in modern history. It was just after 8 a.m. on July 2nd, 1951, when Mary's landlady, Pansy Carpenter, noticed a peculiar odor wafting through the hallway outside Mary's apartment. The smell was acrid and chemical, a stench that clung to the humid air. Concerned, Pansy knocked on Mary's door. There was no answer. Pansy reached for the doorknob, but it was hot to the touch. Alarmed, she summoned a couple of nearby men, and together they forced the door open. What they found inside would haunt them forever. Mary's body, or what was left of her. Mary Reeser's armchair was little more than a heap of blackened springs. On the floor, surrounded by a small pile of ashes, lay her remains. Her skull had shrunk to an abnormally small size, described as shrunken like a doll's head. A single lower leg remained intact, still clad in a slipper. Strangely, the apartment itself showed almost no signs of fire damage. A few plastic objects nearby had softened from heat, but the walls, ceiling, and other furniture were untouched. The carpet beneath the chair was scorched, but the flames had not spread beyond that. The scene was as grotesque as it was inexplicable. This bizarre combination of extreme heat and selective burning left seasoned investigators stumped. St. Petersburg police arrived quickly, followed by the fire department. Word of the bizarre scene spread fast, and soon the apartment complex was surrounded by onlookers whispering in horror and fascination. Captain S.R. Reichert of the St. Petersburg Fire Department led the initial investigation. His team was baffled. Fires that consume a human body to ashes required temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet Mary's body had burned with such intensity that only fragments remained, while her surroundings were largely untouched. Forensics experts analyzed the scene, but no accelerants were found. There was no evidence of a cigarette, gas leak, or any other ignition source that could explain the fire. Adding to the mystery was the smell. Witnesses described it as acrid, chemical, and profoundly unpleasant, nothing like the scent of a typical house fire. By the end of July 1951, the case had reached the national spotlight. Headlines across the country questioned how an elderly woman could burn so completely while leaving her surroundings almost entirely unscathed. Experts floated a range of theories. Some speculated that Mary fell asleep with a lit cigarette, which could have ignited her clothing. Some investigators suggested Mary's body fat might have acted like a candle wick, with her clothes serving as the initial fuel. This theory proposed that once the fire started, it could smolder slowly and intensely, reducing her body to ash. But this didn't explain why there was no obvious source of ignition or why the heat didn't spread. Others speculated that a freak lightning strike or buildup of static electricity could have ignited the fire. However, there was no evidence of lightning storms in St. Petersburg that night, and static electricity seemed far-fetched. Soon, whispers of spontaneous human combustion began circulating. Could Mary Reeser have fallen victim to this mysterious and controversial phenomenon? Spontaneous human combustion, or SHC, is a rare and unexplained event in which a person is said to burst into flames without an external source of ignition. Skeptics dismiss it as pseudoscience, but believers argue that cases like Mary's defy conventional explanations. The autopsy report provided no further clarity. Pathologists couldn't determine a definitive cause of death. Mary Reeser's son, Dr. Richard Reeser, a physician, was as perplexed as anyone. Then there were the rumors. Details whispered among neighbors and curious onlookers. The shrinking of Mary's skull was particularly baffling. High temperatures usually cause skulls to expand and fracture, not contract. Was this the result of an unknown chemical reaction, or something even stranger? How could a fire burn so intensely in such a localized area without spreading? It seemed too precise, almost targeted. Pansy Carpenter later recalled Mary mentioning that she planned to take 2 sleeping pills that evening, feeling unusually restless. Could this detail have significance, or was it an irrelevant footnote? As investigators hit dead ends, darker theories emerged. Some speculated Mary had been the target of foul play, but no evidence supported this. Her life was quiet, and she had no known enemies. Others suggested some kind of supernatural force. Could Mary have been the victim of a curse? The unexplained shrinking of her skull and the precision of the fire seemed almost otherworldly. Then there was the idea of extraterrestrial involvement, a fringe theory, but one that gained traction among conspiracy enthusiasts. The idea was that Mary's death had been caused by an advanced technology beyond human understanding. As weeks turned to months, the case remained open but stagnant. The FBI even stepped in, with J. Edgar Hoover himself expressing interest in the case, but their analysis concluded nothing beyond what local authorities already knew. The fire's origin and behavior were unexplainable. Mary's remains were buried, but her story refused to rest. The case of the spontaneous combustion of Mary Reeser became a cautionary tale, a mystery that haunted the public imagination. More than 7 decades later, Mary Reeser's death remains an enigma. Theories have evolved, but no explanation has definitively solved the mystery. Was her death a tragic, natural anomaly, an unknown chemical reaction within her body? Or was it something more sinister, something beyond the boundaries of science and reason? I imagine Mary, sitting in her armchair that fateful night, surrounded by the quiet of her apartment and the relentless Florida rain. Did she sense something was wrong? Did she feel the first flicker of heat, the eerie grip of the unknown? We may never know the truth. But every so often, when I think of that small, smoky apartment in St. Petersburg, a chill runs down my spine. Because what happened to Mary Reeser wasn't just a tragedy. It was a glimpse into a mystery that remains unsolved, a reminder that some questions have no answers. What do you think happened to Mary Reeser? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.